The people that came to hear, as Brian was saying, the value of a good politician is a politician who's willing to listen. And they have all waited patiently. They have listened to all the testimony that you listened to. And so I would like to just call them up so that they can be part of answering some of your questions when you ask them. So, first let me introduce Heidi Workman. She is the representative for this county. She ran on property taxes, and we are so glad that she is concerned about property taxes and wants to deal with the property tax issue. We have put a lot of trust in her, and we believe that she is going to do what she can do, but she's one. And if you count Dave Thomas and say one more, that's three. We need to get everybody involved. Portage County can't fix this alone. Heidi Workman can't fix this alone. Dave Thomas can't fix it alone, and Dave and Heidi can't fix it alone. We all need to be part of it. The other representative that is here is Dave Thomas, and he is from Lake and Ashtabula, I believe, District 65, and he has also been very vocal because he's been on the other side of it as the county auditor. He's seen the spreadsheets and the details and the data and the money that comes in and where it goes out. He's very knowledgeable about all this as it's happening. We also have our Portage County treasurer here, Mr. Kennedy, who has also been vocal. If you get the local paper, he's sent out press releases recently. He's as concerned as we are. And if you look, we have Democrats and Republicans right here before you. This is not a partisan issue. This is a you issue. We also have our auditor here. It's great to have Kelly join us. We have a couple commissioners in the audience. If they would like to come up, if they're still here, please come up so that you can be part of the question and answer. I know Sabrina's here and
Jill's here.
Jill's here.
She's right here.
And there's Mike Tinley. All right. So as they wake their way up, I just want to say we are working on a petition. We are working on a petition that completely eliminates property tax. I look at it as, right now they have three main ways to tax us, and there are other ways. But there's income tax, there's sales tax, and there's property tax. So it's time for the state government to go from a three-wheeler to a two-wheeler and learn how to balance on what they get. Okay? So I'm going to give each of these guys a minute to say hello, say a couple words, and then we are going to take questions from the audience. So if you have a question, raise your hand, and John will make his way around the audience to get your questions.
Thank you so much. Good evening. I would like to say thank you to Elaine Cross, to Jimmy Emmerich, to Carly, wherever you are, Carly, the entire board of Project Promise who brought us all here tonight. Also to our friends in local government here, thank you so much for being here. We are all here because we care. This is an issue that can unite us across party lines. It's not political, it is nonpartisan, and we are all here because we care. I sent out a petition across Portage County to almost 50,000 people. And the number one concern that they had was this issue, property tax reform. So I'm here tonight because I care. I sent that invitation out to the majority of you, and I asked my dear friend, fellow state representative David Thomas to join us because he is the author and champion of the expansion of the Homestead program. And this is the best and most effective way, the silver bullet, to provide the relief that our seniors need all across the state of Ohio. It also provides relief to our veterans. So we are prioritizing this bill, expanding the homestead exemption, and I will let Representative Thomas speak to that a little bit. Before I do that, I can take just a couple minutes, I hope, and by a show of hands, does anybody here want me to show you gubernatorial candidate Vivek Ramaswamy's statement on property tax reform? Show of hands. Okay, that looks to me like the majority. So he sent this to me tonight. He could not be here this evening, but asked if I would play it because I knew we would have a big turnout.
me join you this way, I wanted to share a few of my thoughts on property tax reform. Let me start by stating the obvious. Our property taxes are way too high in the state. They're unjustly high in the state. When you pay as much in your property taxes as you do on the principal repayment of your mortgage, that's unjust, it's un-American, and it's antithetical to our values here in Ohio. It's time for action. We need basic reforms, starting with putting a ceiling on how much of a property tax you can pay as a percentage of the land or property that you own. That shouldn't be controversial. We need to end the game playing with the 20 mil floor. We need to end other forms of game playing and non-transparency. Actually make sure the ballot measures contain information for the voter on how much they're going to pay in dollar value as a percentage of property values of different dollars, so voters really know how much it's going to cost them. That stuff's not controversial, shouldn't be particularly partisan. I know you all aren't going to back off this issue. Thank you for your interest that you've taken in what I believe is the top economic issue facing so many Ohioans in our state, the top economic burden for so many Ohioans in our state. And I can promise you this, as your next governor, I will make sure that we fight to end this crisis in our state so we can stand true for true private property-based principles that made America and made Ohio great the first time. That's how we're going to make Ohio great again. So thank you again for the opportunity. I hope to see you all in person before too long. And in the meantime, keep fighting the good fight. It's worth it for our state.
There you have it. I'm going to turn it over to Representative Thomas. Thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate all of you. And I guarantee you, I took my oath to serve you, and I will do that every day that I have this seat to represent you. Here's Representative Thomas.
Thank you all for welcoming me here. You have an awesome representative. Not too many state reps across the state are willing to do town halls and be present. You've got awesome local officials who are answering questions too. I'm happy to answer any of the questions on specific bills that we have. We'll have roughly 10 to 15 targeted single issue bills that you can read. You can see what we're doing, and we're attacking all the different areas of the tax system. There is no silver bullet. There is no one bill, no one action. It's going to take quite a bit, and we're using your enthusiasm, your action already at the local level to help beat down, frankly, some of the folks who are opposing us already and get things across the finish line. So thanks for having us.
John Kennedy, Portage County Treasurer. I want to thank you for coming up here and being part of this discussion. And Heidi, I know you're brand new, but we need your leadership on what is the most important issue, I feel, in the state of Ohio, which is property tax relief. And I would only prioritize seniors, especially, because it was alluded to earlier about seniors being priced out of their homes. Matt Kelly and I here, there is no difference in terms of how we're approaching this problem. We have been hearing what you've been putting out there, your frustration, your anger about property taxes. We've been getting it on the front lines for over a year, more than that actually. And so we know that this issue is top, and our seniors need a break, you know. And so if we can get some homestead exemption benefit, you know, a lot of the folks that I talk to say, John, I just, you know, I'm just over that $40,000 income threshold, and I'm therefore ineligible for this this benefit, or the benefit that I'm getting, $25,000 off the taxable value of my property. That's just not enough. I'm on fixed income, and I can't afford. I've got the mortgage paid off. I've lived in this house for 50 plus years. I want to die in this house. I'm not moving. I'm not going anywhere. I love Portage County. How can I stay in Portage County? How can I stay in my house? We can do this. We can figure it out. And I have faith that this has moved up quite a bit down in Columbus, and that you guys are going to really attack it. So I appreciate your work on this. I'll stop talking. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Kelly. I'm your Portage County Auditor. I'm the guy that's had the wonderful task of carrying all this very complicated, very tough, frustrating stuff out over the past 6 months or so. When I first came into the auditor's office here less than 2 years ago, this is one of the first things I saw that was going to be a very, very big issue, a freight train coming to Portage County. I listened to other auditors around other counties. I knew it was a state issue. So we started having town hall meetings like this, very smaller. The first one I went to was in Atwater, about half the size of this crowd, and talked for about an hour and a half. And at the end of that meeting, instead of directing the anger and frustration towards me, which I know was coming, I signed up for it, I'm okay with having tough discussions, but at the end of that meeting, that group of 50 or 60, maybe 70 people was ready to get on a bus and drive down to Columbus and express exactly what everybody in this room is feeling. I see this every single day. I can't tell you how many houses I've been out to of seniors talking exactly what John's talking about, that they're frustrated and scared that they're going to be taxed out of their house. That's a sin in the United States, as was talked about in the presentation. I can tell you, I've never seen the presentation that was up here by, I believe, Mr. Gilbert, the first presentation that was up here. I have not seen that presentation before. But largely, if you've heard me talk at any of these town meetings that I've been to, at the townships and the Kiwanis Club, the Lions Club, wherever it's been, John and I have been, we say most of the same things up there. I focus very much so on my family. That's the most important part of my life, and want government to stay as much out of my life as possible. I'm in this position. I ran for auditor so I could be not on the sidelines, but be part of the solution. And I hope that, in the speeches that we give, John and I, the speeches that we give at the town hall meetings, saying, hey, look, we have got to be a loud voice. Matt Kelly, our commissioners, are not going to be the only ones that say something and something's going to get done. Certainly we have the ear of our state representatives and others, but it can't be just one person. The more powerful voice is groups like this. I'm so happy to see everybody here tonight. I'm ready to take tough questions. This is a very, very difficult situation in Ohio. Luckily right now, I'll tell you, we have some I think the only thing that I disagreed with in that presentation is that with our local leadership in Portage County, I am very confident we have the right people in office right now. I can tell you, with Heidi and Dave down in Columbus working for us to do something, they're already doing stuff. 6 months ago, 8 months ago, when we were talking to groups like this is what we were asking for, is to Columbus to listen to our frustrations, and now here our state representatives are right here in Portage County. So yes, we need to do something about this. It is a very, very complicated process, our tax structure. It's been out there since, the mid-1970s. Dave Thomas is about the smartest person that I've ever heard talk about property taxes. I know he has some very good bills in Columbus that are going to benefit us. But I can tell you on my part that I'm not going to stop going out to Portage County. We've been to the Ravenna Balloon Affair. We had the auditor's office on Main Street taking homestead exemption applications, getting the word out on what was going on. We've been up to Aurora. As I mentioned, we've been to the Kiwanis Club, been to dozens and dozens of township meetings to get the word out. And again, we're not going to stop that. We want to get the word out. We want people to know what's going on. I'm okay taking tough questions. If you want transparency, come to my office. Let's talk. Let's talk about how to use the tools that are in place right now, the Board of Revision, to get an adjustment on your property. That's the tools that are out there right now. Hopefully that gets improved here going forward. But I know Heidi's called me many times saying, hey, what are you hearing? What things can we do, especially veterans? I'm a veteran myself. I like hearing good things that are going to be done for our veterans, our seniors. My mom and dad live in Summit County. They went through this last year. So I knew this was coming listening to them. I was sensitive to it. So coming in here, I had the mindset, and now I got the team to be able to do something about this in Columbus. So keep voicing your opinion, your frustration. Be involved, like what was said here a minute ago. Be involved in the process. If you need to use me as your mouthpiece, I will be your mouthpiece, and I will tell who needs to hear what needs to happen. So I don't consider myself a politician. I'm not running for office this year. I am here because I want to be accessible to you. I'm not a politician. I consider myself a public servant. So I'll pass it on. Sorry. That's all I need to know.
Good evening. I'm your County Commissioner, Sabrina Christian Bennett. I've been your commissioner for 10 years. And those of you know, I am not a big fan of taxes, nor am I a big fan of imposing taxes. But the first thing I'd like to say is I want to give kudos to Matt Kelly and John Kennedy for staying out in the forefront, getting ahead of this. I was just in DC for a NACO legislative update, and they were talking about how their auditors have not even started. They are just now starting. And mind you, the deadline is the same for everyone, isn't it?
March 31st.
March 31st. And here we are in March, and they're just now trying to get to their citizens. It's like, where the heck have you been? You're a public servant, just like the three of us are. And I can tell you, we have a real problem and a real need for property tax reform. And I think with our legislative folks that we have with Heidi, and also Steve Dimitro, and with Matt and John Kennedy, and with the support of the Board of Commissioners, and people may find it odd because we heavily rely on taxes, whether it's sales tax or property taxes. But again, you know what? No one should be taxed out of their home. And I hear it every day. It's not just being taxed out of your home. They can't even afford to go to a trailer park. The park rents are astronomical. They are being taxed, some left homeless, or having to move in with their children. This is not the America I know and love. We need to do something, and we need to start now. Let your voices be heard. As Matt says, call any of us. Our doors are open, and that's what we're here for. We work for you. So, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I am Jill Crawford. I just took office. I'm a Portage County Commissioner. I just took office 2 months ago, and I think Sabrina said it well. You know what the commissioners do, and I know you guys probably want to ask questions, so I'm not going to hold this up. I'm going to pass it on to Mike.
I'm going to hurry up because I know you want to talk to them.
That's really what they're here.
Go sit down. I ran when Matt ran, so I'm not running either. I too am not a politician. I didn't need this job, I wanted it. And the reason I wanted it is because of you. And the purpose is, quick story. Father was in Korea, got taken prisoner of war, was down for 8 months in captivity. Finally got rid of him, came back, he passed. Now I'm looking at our taxes. We can't help our veterans and we can't help our people who, all your life, all you've done is pay taxes. You go buy a car, you pay taxes. You pay taxes. You work, you pay taxes. Where's it go? And Miss Barb here, she made a comment about us. We are frugal. We are frugal. We question everything because we work for you. Love you guys. These people, outstanding. They've just been out all over. I appreciate you giving us an opportunity to say hello. And our doors are open. I am an open book. You can come in and you can look at whatever you want. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity.
I have a few people that are chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
Have some questions out here.
Okay, hang on. I want to reiterate, we are blessed in Portage County. And as we travel the state to other counties, we don't get one representative, local, even city, to show up. So to have this lineup of your representatives show up and listen and hear and be empathetic to your situation, we are truly blessed. We are truly blessed. So if you would just give a round of applause for our representatives who have come out and want to serve. Now, because Brian and Leonard have traveled several places and have never really had the opportunity to ask a question, Leonard asked me if he could have the first question because apparently he's got something that's chewing in his craw. So let's give him the first question.
What's chewing in your craw? I never heard that one. I'm Southern. Anyway, here's what I'd like to know, because I like to get to the meat of things. If I had a petition in my hand right now to say we're going to eliminate the property tax, and I gave you some very good reasons why and alternatives besides the property tax, would you sign it right now?
I would sign. The question is, are the alternatives funded?
Yes.
Funded alternatives, then yes, absolutely. There's a lot of money that we have to make up if we eliminate property taxes. And that is because we rely so heavily on our public services at the local level. And your property taxes fund all the public services that we have access to, our fire, our police, our libraries, our zoos, our schools. It goes on and on and on. So when we eliminate property taxes, we have to consider the effect that that has on our communities and the services that we appreciate. So just something to keep in mind. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, no, I think it's important that we have a vote. So I would sign it because I think we have to decide as a people, just like we decide on levies, we have to vote on levies, we should also be able to decide on that too. But I always tell folks as well, be careful what we put in our Constitution, because that's very, very difficult to change. But I think this is something worthy of the conversation. And I can't tell you also how afraid folks in Columbus are right now over the idea of many constitutional amendments being out there. I literally brought you up, Leonard, twice today, one with a school board meeting, one with another tax meeting, to be able to say we have to reform now because this is coming. And they're very afraid of it. So thank you for all of your work, and it's a big help. You guys have a time.
Well, I'm not a state lawmaker, so I wouldn't have the ability to sign off on something, but, you know, the issue really is around cost. And I said this with Matt in our op-ed that we did last week, that a state budget is a reflection of what we value as a people, right? So if you were to excise, so to speak, the property tax completely, what value in terms of money are you going to assign to replace these very, very, very critical services and programs that we make available through property taxes right now? So I think that's where you have to start is, you know, is there a value proposition out there amongst us as citizens that says, yep, I value schools. Schools we know, are a big economic driver of our local economies. I understand that. And if you don't have a highly functioning public school system locally, guess what? You're not attracting a lot of young families to move into an area. Ravenna is facing such a hardship right now. So again, it's a question of what do we value and what kind of money are we going to allocate towards the things that we value the most.
I would 100% sign a petition to eliminate property taxes, and I like the funding, the alternative fund, making sure the alternatives are funded. We talked about that at our town hall meetings. Recreational marijuana, legal in Ohio right now. You don't have to like it, but the voters voted for it. Tax it. Use that towards the services we're talking about. Legal sports gambling. Again, you don't have to like it. The voters voted for it. Use that tax. Let's see if we can use that for the services we're talking about. You still got the sin tax, and I'm sure there's a lot of smart people down there in Columbus that can figure out some other alternatives. One thing I did see a headline recently, $400 million being asked for a new Brown Stadium. I can think of more houses up here in Portage County that need attention before we focus on an NFL team up in Cleveland. So that's just my opinion on that.
Okay, John, so address somebody. We have a treasurer, an auditor, and 2 state reps. So if one of those you think would answer the question best, ask it toward them.
I'd like to make a statement if I could.
Sure.
And I'd like our state rep and other people to listen to this. But I was a social studies teacher for 35 years, public school teacher. Funding is very near and dear to my heart. And I did a little research before I came, and I'll be brief. But the Ohio State Constitution was amended in 1851. And it required a thorough and efficient system of common schools throughout the state. Not communist, common schools in the state. Now this went on, and the schools were funded in different ways. Several decades ago, there was a Ohio State Supreme Court decision called Durall versus the state of Ohio, where a plaintiff challenged the state and said that their school funding system was not constitutional. The Supreme Court ruled 4-3 that it was not constitutional in order for the state to come up with a fair funding system. That has not been done. That was 1997. And we're still waiting. Now you're talking about tax reform. Unfortunately, property taxes do play a big part in the funding of those schools. But I read your brochure when I came in here, my wife and I, and it said one of the long-term goals was to amend the Constitution, reform the funding mechanism for all services currently funded through property taxes in more balanced and transparent ways, such as sales and income tax. Gee, that makes a lot of sense. I can't figure out, nobody in Columbus has figured that out yet. So I appeal to you to please support your schools.
Okay, thank you for that question. I'm going to give Representative Thomas the mic, he wants to answer that, but I'm going to give you a little bit of fact here that I have. School districts in the state of Ohio have the right to charge income tax. Only 217, I think, out of 606 schools actually do it. So it's a whole mechanism for them to fund their schools that most of them do not take advantage of.
Thank you, and just to go off of that handful of things. First, that's an excellent point. At the local level, remember, the property taxes do not actually come to Columbus. Property taxes are solely a local function and pay for local services. In fact, the state of Ohio, our sales and income tax, the state of Ohio actually cuts a $2 billion check every year to local governments for the credits and to help with homestead, help with veterans, help with different credits that property owners enjoy. So property taxes stay local. Counties, villages, cities, schools could decide tomorrow, we have given them the tools. We actually don't even need a constitutional amendment. We've given them the tools to move that burden off of property and either onto sales or onto income tax or some variation of that. So we already actually have that ability right now. Now when it comes to schools, the Duralf decisions we all know happened many, many years ago. What those actually said, not that property tax itself was unconstitutional. Back during that time, we relied majority on property taxes for schools. And so how they actually viewed it was that depending on what student went to what district, you were getting a much worse education if you were in a poorer area because only the property taxes could support it. The court decision wasn't actually really looking at the taxpayers' fairness, they were looking at the students' fairness. Now since then, we've had about 7 different formulas. Currently, we're on our most recent one, the Fair School Funding Formula. We as a legislature, you as taxpayers, for your sales and your income tax, every 2 years has given almost $1.5 billion more to our public school systems than in the previous year. We as a state contribute from our sales and our income tax over $15 billion to public schools. We as property owners contribute several $billion less than that. So we do have a majority funded through our sales and our income tax. Schools are able to shift some of that, reduce their property tax, either have an income tax or decrease their tax rate as many other schools have done. But if you all hear that we are defunding public education at the state level, that is simply not true. We are funding public education more than we ever have with your sales tax and your income tax dollars. And we're attempting through many of our bills this year to decrease your property tax burden all the same. But schools can do that, counties, villages, cities, municipalities can do that right now as well.
May I have 1 moment? I have had the chance to speak with some of the schools in our district. And it is true that depending on your location or what district you're in or your property tax funding, some of our schools do feel the burden of being defunded in the governor's proposed budget. This is, there are many factors that are contributing to this understanding. However, the most recent governor's budget has fully funded the Cup-Patterson Fair School Funding Formula. They have fully funded the final phase of that funding program. So the only issue now that the schools have informed me, and I have some really great Board of Education members here I know that I've spoken with, the only issue now is that some of those inputs that they're requesting for additional funding have not been included in the governor's allocations. So that's where we're at, and we're in negotiation. And if they were, they'd be next to 1.5 billion.
That'd be an extra $1.5 billion that we'd be giving, in addition to everything from the property tax side, in addition to everything we've already done over the past several years. So as was said earlier, we have a spending problem in our local government, largely our schools, frankly.
And we've all come to rely on that, so it's hard to take that away. It's a negotiation.
We also have state programs that are not funded by the state, but they're mandated by the state that we only give partial payments on. Explain that to everybody.
If you would allow me to come to you, you have a question, let me come to you, raise your hand. We do have a line of other people. Thank you.
You want to let him finish? Or answer his question?
So his question was related to the state's demands on the outcomes or the expectations of our school districts in educating our children. So the concern is that